This is a panorama of Auckland from 1900, which was produced by Henry Winkleman. There are quite a few landmarks on the skyline of the panorama that we would recognise today. So there's the Flagstaff in Albert Park here. There's the Northern Club here. St Patrick's Cathedral here. The same panorama, the first of Henry Winkleman's published panoramas. One thing that's interesting in its published form is that you can actually see the individual lines between the glass plates. So whilst we can reproduce a digital version of the panorama where it's fully uniform, well, the technology of the day meant that you couldn't actually get rid of those distinctions between the individual glass plates, and they appeared in the published form. There are something like 2,000 glass plates in the collection that the library holds, and we knew there were tens of panoramas altogether. But it's perhaps only thanks, if we can say that, thanks to the COVID lockdown, that we were able to sit down, look at the digital versions of each negative and physically put them together on the computer screen.
We were working on the metadata, so in putting it into our new collection system, we wanted to make sure that it would show up in search in a way that made sense. So if people were looking for a particular part of Auckland, it was named according to what they would search for. And in doing that, discovered that there were panoramas in here that we hadn't understood existed before. So this is an example of how the panoramas would be displayed. They would be prepared like this for printing in the newspaper. One of the great things that Henry did was, because he knew he was shooting these as panoramas, he made sure he had enough overlap between the images. Because very often you'll find that the images don't quite line up exactly, but he's been very precise in what he's done. And so it actually made our job pretty easy. There was only one we found where he didn't quite make it. And so we stitched that, but we left a little black line in there to show that, well, it doesn't quite meet up. But that one exception proves the rule, really, that he was remarkably precise in his photography. So one of the panoramas that we didn't know existed was a panorama of the zoo, which is really kind of fascinating because it's only 2 years after the zoo was opened. And you see there are ladies with their parasols going for a walk, and then beyond the walls of the zoo, you can see all these market gardens. And so that's where a lot of the food for Auckland came from. Basically just an extraordinary view of Auckland before the suburbs took over. So really a great discovery.
One thing about Henry Winkleman's photographs is that there are quite a few that actually feature him remarkably. This is one that appears in a biography published in 1987. So Henry Winkleman was born in Bradford in Yorkshire. He came to New Zealand in 1878. So this photograph is the Bank of New Zealand Staff Auckland branch in 1894, where Henry Winkleman worked. So after he worked as a shipping agent, he decided he could make sufficient money out of photography, and he set up in business on the top floor of the Victoria Arcade in Queen Street, and that was in 1901. So this is a copy of the Auckland Weekly News photographic supplement from 1899. What our artist faces to get good pictures for weekly news readers. And what we've got is Henry Winkleman here with a camera over his shoulder, clambering over rocks to secure the photograph for the Auckland Weekly News. The great thing about the panoramas is Henry Winkleman has sought out different vantage points. He would climb the mast of a ship on the Auckland waterfront, or he would climb the Albert Street fire bell tower, which gives you an incredible view of Auckland City. The other thing that he would do is quite often go back to the same location years apart, sometimes decades apart, so you'd get the same panorama, but now you would see how the city has developed in the last 10 years or last 20 years. In 1928, Henry Winckelmann was 68 years of age, decided he'd had enough of working as a professional photographer. He offered at that time his collection of Auckland City negatives to the Auckland Council for sale. So this is Henry Winckelmann's original letter, which is addressed to His Worship the Mayor. And it says, "Dear Sir, as I am contemplating retiring from the photographic profession, I beg to offer to the Auckland City Council for purchase my very valuable and interesting collection of photographic negatives of Auckland City and suburbs covering a period of about 30 years and illustrating the remarkable growth of the city. I venture to think that the acquisition of this collection by the city would prove not only useful for reference but more and more interesting as the years go by. The price I'm asking is £100, which includes boxes, specially constructed, and register." So Henry Winckelmann was very prescient with his thinking. He realised that what he'd got was something very valuable, and even more so, the Auckland Library staff who made this purchase in 1928 were very forward-thinking as well.
This is a glass plate negative, and it's they were made from the 1880s. This one's in amazing condition. It's really clean. This negative has a few layers of protection, so it'll go back into its envelope and then into its box, into downstairs into the photo store where we have temperature and relative humidity controls. So once it's in here, it could be stored safely for a few hundred years, hopefully even more. And so, future generations can look at it.
As digitisation has matured, we discovered we had to go back and redigitise the Winckelmanns because we could do such a better job of it. So the Winckelmann collection that's now available in Kura is a much bigger collection than what was available in Heritage Images. Not only because of the addition of the panoramas, but those bits and pieces that we found that had been overlooked because digitisation used to be expensive and kind of hard. So really important to keep the originals because you never know when you'll be able to go back and do something even more amazing with them.
It is quite remarkable what the photographs get used for. When we had the 175th anniversary of Auckland, it was Winckelmann's photographs that were reproduced on the side of shipping containers that were on Quay Street. We discovered 150 panoramas, and in choosing them for an exhibition, it was incredibly difficult because every single one is perfect. It's the eternal appeal. They are such good photographs that people really have an affinity with these photographs. It's quite phenomenal how popular they are.